Earlier today, President Trump spoke about his great relationship with North Korea just days before this second summit with Kim Jong-un. He has in the past, we hope, half-jokingly said the two men have fallen in love. The president is eagerly anticipating this summit, but the people around him, not so much. The headline in Politico says it all. Trump aides worry he'll get outfoxed in North Korea talks. They report the worry among those around the president is that, quote, Trump, eager to declare victory on the world stage, could make big concessions in exchange for empty promises of denuclearization. Trump offered this slightly confusing answer when asked about what might be on the table during next week's summit.
Is drawing down U.S. troops a consideration in your upcoming summit with North Korea Kim Jong-un?
No, it's not. No, that is not a consideration. That is not one of the things on the table.
What is on the table?
Oh, you really want me to discuss that now?
I do.
Everything is on the table.
Well, here to talk about it, General Barry McCaffrey, retired U.S. Army four-star general, heavily decorated combat veteran of Vietnam and the Gulf War, and a former U.S. drug czar. And Gabby Orr is with us, White House reporter for, of all places, Politico, who we just quoted. Welcome to you both. General, I'd like to start with you. As we note, something you always like to point out, North Korea has for years craved being relevant. There's a reason a U.S. president has never agreed to meet with them heretofore, and it's a regime so weak that one of the reasons they're meeting in Asia is the real concern that they have aircraft that can make the trip long enough to reach European capitals. So having laid that on the table, what leverage does Donald Trump bring into this meeting?
Not much. You know, Brian, I spent a lot of time as an arms control negotiator in the international community dealing with chemical weapons, biological weapons, nuclear devices. I've never seen anything like this. Here's the situation right now. The North Koreans are still making fissile material. They're manufacturing intermediate range missiles. We believe their research effort continues. Moon in South Korea said, let's trade with them. The Chinese and the Russians are covertly loosening the economic constraints. And the President of the United States says, I'm in love with him. There's no time constraints on these discussions, and the nuclear threat's gone. So the ability to get in there and use economic coercive constraints is being loosened. He said in public that he thought U.S. military presence in South Korea, he used the language that the Chinese and North Koreans use, was essentially provocative. It's hard to imagine what he thinks is going to come out of this, except that North Koreans have already been self-declared and acknowledged as a nuclear power, and they're now relevant on the world stage.
Gabby, this is what makes your job so interesting and exhausting, that the people you deal with, the adults, during the day, know that what the general just said is correct, and they know that the only person in the entire government who is likely to keep this warm view of this dictator is their boss. So that's a problem.
It is a problem. If you talk to senior administration officials, the people who are primarily advising the president on North Korea, they are not as optimistic as the president is heading into the second summit with Kim Jong-un. And in fact, they fear that he is prepared to make a concession that could deeply damage relations with our key allies, especially in Europe. That President Trump could agree to draw back troops in South Korea, that he could agree to economic sanctions relief for North Korea. I mean, these are things that they consider President Trump might be willing to make when he sits down with Kim Jong-un, and certainly isn't being advised to by these individuals. And the other problem here that we're seeing in the lead up to this summit is that they're starting to tamp down expectations. You know, heading into the last summit, it was that we're going to get an agreement for complete, verifiable, irreversible denuclearization. Heading into this summit 9 months later, it's to figure out what the definition of denuclearization is. That is a significant change in 9 months' time. And I think it speaks to the fact that President Trump's advisors, mainly Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and John Bolton, his national security advisor, are really trying to make sure that he doesn't go into this feeling like he needs to offer something up and get very little in return.
Well, that's right. And, General, to that point, you know the president's going to feel pressure to announce a win to sign a cocktail napkin jointly to have something to point to.
Yeah, I agree. You know, one of the most likely outcomes, it seems to me, is you're going to declare an end to the state of war between the United Nations and North Korea, which would immediately give the North Koreans arguing points to get U.S. military forces out of the region. One of the three aims that Kim Jong-un has: reunite the country under his mandate, be accepted as a nuclear power, and get the U.S. out. I think there's tremendous uneasiness that we will get in there. We won't get transparency of the North Korean nuclear program. That's step one to any successful negotiations. Where are the nukes? Where's the research? And then secondly, you got to go in and verify they've told you the truth. That's not going to come out of this meeting. So why we're having a summit in the absence of any concrete North Korean compliance is beyond me.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.